Imagine what it must be like to be the sole keeper of your family's heirloom recipe for anything, say their cannoli, for which people have come to your family's restaurant for nearly 100 years. Our guest today, Chef Matthew Cutolo, is that cannoli keeper of that and also of many other family recipe jewels. Those of you from New York, especially from Coney Island, know of that restaurant, Gargiulo's, where Matthew oversees both the pastry and daily restaurant operations. And every once in a while, you can even see him sharing one of his recipes on the Today Show and other shows. Chef Cutolo grew up surrounded by the restaurant's culture, learning techniques from grandparents, parents, and cousins who kept Gargiulo's running over multiple generations. That early experience shaped his approach today, preserving the dishes that define his family's history and the restaurant's identity and legacy. He focuses on classic Neapolitan recipes rarely found outside home kitchens. And some of them include penne pasqualina, pasta di San Giuseppe, and pizza rustica. Yeah, you knew we'd get around to pizza sooner or later. We're going to talk about more of that in a second. Matthew and his family also appeared at the New York City Wine and Food Festival. Gargiulo's has been spotlighted by the New York Times, Condé Nast Traveler, The Infatuation, and Eater New York. Alongside his work in the restaurant, he also collaborates with brands like Galbani Cheese, Citarella, and Staple Gin, where he brings a modern lens to the Italian-American traditions he grew up with. Each summer, he opens Gargiulo's outdoor Sorrento-style pizzeria and leads seasonal celebrations that highlight street fair-style foods that his family has made for generations. Chef Cutolo studied finance, played lacrosse at Quinnipiac University before interning at ABC's The Chew. He's a Long Island native now based in Bay Ridge, and he continues to represent both his family's legacy and the wider Italian-American culinary tradition. Chef Matthew Cutolo, welcome to Pizza Quest.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be able to join and talk some pizza and plenty of other things today.
Yeah, well, you got a lot. I mean, man, you've packed a lot of credits in your career, young man, and you're still a young man. But still, what strikes me most in everything that I just mentioned is that you are now the third generation in your family to carry on this legacy brand. That's a lot of pressure to bear, especially that part about preserving those family heirloom recipes. Is this a calling for you? And who carries on after you?
I definitely think it's a calling, and it's something that I was always kind of gravitated to, especially food and just, being surrounded by family and food for as long as I can remember. It just seemed like a natural fit, and kind of why I made that pivot that you alluded to from finance to where I am today.
Yeah,
So,
did you actually consider at one time not going into the family business?
yeah, you know what? I was playing lacrosse in high school and kind of got to that. That was just what you kind of did. You went into the business world, and, I kind of liked accounting. It was okay. So I said, yeah, all right, fine. And I was at that like juncture where I didn't end up playing in college, but I, had a great 4 years. And then about halfway through, I was just like, I don't think I can sit behind a desk for the rest of my life. And about halfway through, I spoke to my Uncle Louis, and, he was checking on things, how they were going, and
Yeah.
conversation then, kind of turned to, so you're coming to work when you're done? And that was like all I needed to hear. So the rest was kind of history.
So the family never tried to talk you out of going into the business?
No, you know what? My generation. So the restaurant started in 1907 by the Gargiulo family. And if you know Michael Gargiulo on NBC New York, it's actually his grandfather that started it. And then in 1965, my family, the Russo family, bought the restaurant. And then my aunt and uncles now are the current owners and operators. So I've got four uncles and an aunt who own it. Everybody has their own little role. My Uncle Mike is the head chef in the kitchen. My Uncle Louis handles all the accounting and finances. My Aunt Ray is in charge of running the catering hall and booking events. My Uncle Nino does the marketing and public relations. And then Uncle Anthony heads up the dining room, and he, oversees that. So I was able to kind of really learn from all of them when I started, right after college, going in full time, which was so great to build such a widespread foundation where I was able to learn a little bit of everything about the business and then also still having my degrees from college. So I had a really strong foundation, but it was always, I always loved the kitchen. I always loved the food. And
Well,
that's what got me into it.
chef, you are that next generation. Are there other, because it's rare, back in the day, it was not unusual for the whole family to come in and keep it going. It's our family, it's what we do. And now in modern times, so to speak, it's rare that family members will continue on. Are there others of your generation that have also come into the business?
My generation compared to my aunt and uncles, we always had a choice, right? So my cousins, they found other callings and other passions that they were drawn to. Everybody at one point or another worked, at the restaurant.
Yeah.
Whether they were running parties or working the dining room or running the bar, at one point or another, we all worked.
Yeah, you were all born to it.
Yeah, it was just the thing that for me, I couldn't see myself doing anything else right now.
But did anyone else stay like you? You stayed in.
Right,
Is any
right now in Coney Island, it's just me.
Wow. So you really are kind of the standard bearer now, and the hope for the future, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then, this is such a common story in America right now is that family businesses has been even some as old as yours or older than yours, they run out of family members that are willing to work that hard and, stay in it. They either, went to college and maybe their parents wanted to get them out of whatever the family business was, or they didn't want them to go into show business or this or that. So they sent them in another direction, and a few come back, and you came back. But then how do you foresee, in a sense, keeping the flame going?
Well, I think, it's all about continuing our family's legacy, kind of what the restaurant was built on and that family aspect, not just our own, but, generations coming in and out of the restaurant, enjoying celebrations and life's moments. And, everybody still wants to eat good,
Right.
no matter what generation you are. Um, so I think that's, heavily important. And it's all about and what we've been able to do. I mean, the only reason we've survived so long is you still have to adapt to the changing times around you. You want to keep the core and the principles of what you do the same, but being able to still run a business in today's world. So there's a few things, it's a fine line. There's a few
Yeah.
things you have to do to keep up with things, but it's all based upon that traditional kind of aspect.
Well, you touched on something there when you said celebration, because it seems like Gargullia is famous. It's like, as the word gets used a lot, maybe overused, iconic, but you're an iconic brand, and restaurant, but known really kind of as the celebration place, aren't you? I mean, isn't that kind of what really draws people to you guys?
So in 1983, we added the catering hall to the restaurant. And throughout the 80s and 90s and up until today, if you lived in Brooklyn and specifically South Brooklyn, at one point or another, you either went to a party, in Gargiulo's, or you hosted a party in Gargiulo's. That was just, part of life. And so everybody kind of had their own experience. And then also with the dining room, coming in to eat on the weekends, or I love getting like, the younger kids when they come home from college and the parents ask them, "What do you want to do? You want to go out to dinner?" "Yeah, I want to go to Gargiulo."
Art Bill, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
You know,
because that's what
I
we do.
yeah, especially, hearing the younger generation say, "That's where I wanna go. That's where I wanna be," or just, any of life's moments from birthday parties to anniversaries, whether it's 10, 15 people or whether it's 300, 400 people, we can accommodate all those different sizes. So it's always nice having everybody in the restaurant celebrating.
You must have a huge kitchen to be able to accommodate that many folks.
Yeah, we're blessed with space in the kitchen, that's for sure. And, like I said, my Uncle Mike, who's the head chef, does an incredible job managing everything and keeping things up to date. And one of the aspects that we pride ourselves on is our cleanliness. So, we're in there cleaning nonstop. If you ask anybody, they'll tell you we have the one of, if not the cleanest, kitchen out there. So we're in there, power washing everything, floor to ceiling, making sure everything's done right. But the kitchen is kind of the central focal point of everything, and then everything branches out, but it all works together.
Well, of course, I've never been there. I don't even know if I think since I was a kid, we're talking about, 60 some years ago, I haven't been to Coney Island, so I really want to get up there. I was talking to our friend, Scott Wiener, who, is the pizza guy of New
Yeah,
York
yeah.
City. And I told him, that you were going to be on. And he says, I can't believe I've never been to Gargiulo's. It's on my bucket list, places to go. So he really wants to come over. And I told him, because he didn't realize, since he focuses so much on pizza, that you also do these summer, pizza in the garden there. You're doing your pizza.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the pizza, because that wasn't part of the original sort of signature brand of Gargiulo's. It was really more about, I would say, about pasta dishes and, classic Italian American dishes. So, how did you bring pizza into it, and what's your what would you say philosophy on pizza?
Yeah, so I think if you go back even further, right? Before we owned Gargiulo's, we started out with pizzeria. So that was kind of, when my great uncles came to this country, that's how they kind of started before we got into Gargiulo's and fine dining and then the catering hall.
You mean like the
So
Totonos and the what you call it, the Lombardis and all those? Like everybody else, you started out in the pizza side.
yeah. So, that's what they had. And then when the opportunity came knocking to, buy Gargiulo's, the Gargiulo family was looking for an old school, type of Neapolitan family, which, we fit that bill. And, that was just the match. And at the time, it was the right move. And, you know, it was a little rough in the beginning. The area had changed dramatically, but
Yeah.
we got 3 stars from the New York Times in 1977 from Mimi Sheridan, and,
That's worth a lot, because her voice was powerful.
yeah, and you know what? A restaurant outside of New York at that time, to get 3 stars was unheard of.
You're right.
So that really, put us on the map, and she just enjoyed the atmosphere, the food, everything like that. She said what Gargiulo sets out to do, they accomplish so well.
Nice.
And after that, then, it really helped. And that's when the business really started to grow. But getting back to the pizza garden,
Yeah.
he always had those kind of, roots
Yeah.
to pizza. And especially being from, Napoli in that area. Years ago, we started doing like the outside pizza garden, and we imported an oven on we put it on wheels, but we imported a brick oven from Naples,
Yeah.
put it on wheels so we could move it around. And we had it for years and years before we really started doing the pizza garden. But my uncle Nino had this idea to let's, do something outside on the weekends. Coney Island was coming up, and they had the fireworks show on Friday night. So let's do something. And it's an evolution over the years of kind of how this thing has transformed. But where we are today now, we take the backspace in the driveway, leading up to the catering hall. We put a big tent out there. It's surrounded by the garden. And my uncle Louis, who's got the greenest of thumbs, he
Nice. Yeah.
puts his little touches with the plants and the flowers
Right.
and
Right.
fresh basil and rosemary and everything like that. So it looks so beautiful. And then I said, a couple years ago, I said, I really want people, when they're sitting down, to forget that they're in the driveway, to forget, all of that kind of thing, and just imagine that they're sitting like on a patio in Sorrento. So
Right.
we hung some lemons and garland and vines and ivy and things like that. We got some wine barrels all around. So it really feels like the space is transformed and your visit is almost transformed as
Yeah,
well.
you've transported them to a whole
Right.
other place.
Exactly. And it's just grown and grown and grown in popularity over the years. And it's always something that people look forward to. And especially since it's only on Friday nights.
Oh, really? Oh, only one night a week?
only one night a week. Yeah.
And when does that open? What time of the year?
Right around when the Mermaid Parade starts. So it's like June 20th, 22nd, somewhere around those dates. We'll start that Friday, and then we'll do it the Saturday for the Mermaid Parade. And then we go pretty much to about mid-September, and we cap it off that Friday. And then the Sunday, now we have our annual San Gennaro feast that we still do in the driveway. But when I thought of the idea a couple years ago, I think we're going to be on our fourth one coming up this September. I A lot of my friends are from Ireland. I met them through the industry, and they've
Ah,
become just some of my closest friends, and they're
that's
just
interesting. Yeah.
great guys.
Yeah.
So they would always ask me years and years ago, like, you ever go to San Gennaro in Little Italy and stuff like that? And you know, what do you think about it? Should we go? And so it's great. It celebrates Italian culture, which I'm all for.
Right.
Uh, but it can be touristy. It can be messy. There's a lot of those things aspects to it. So I was like, I would love to do this at the restaurant. All these different stations and kind of foods and stuff like that. And then COVID hit. So it was kind of put on the back burner.
Mm.
And then finally we were able to do it. And I wanted people to walk up and down the driveway, just like you're walking up and down Little Italy, and you've got sausage and peppers over here, you've got pizza over here, you've got panzerotti, rice balls, all these different stations that you
Yeah.
can go to and kind of have the flavors and the tastes of the San Gennaro feast. And then, we do it in that back tent still where everybody eats, but we've got the accordion player, we've got the Italian flags everywhere. It's a whole day and a whole feast, and just like the Pizza Garden, it's just grown and grown in popularity. Everybody loves it. So
So this feast and the festival, is that what you do once a week, or do you do that only on San Gennaro Day?
that's once a year.
Okay.
So while the festival is going on, one Sunday, we'll do that, and that'll kind of be the cap off in the grand finale for kind of the outdoor garden.
It must be a hot ticket though. Is it hard for people to get in?
It's not, you know what? Again, we're blessed with space, so we
Yeah.
make it work, but it is growing in popularity year in and year out. So it'd be a great problem to have if we do run into that one day.
So I could put it on my calendar. What's the date of that?
It's about September, let's say 10th to 18th. One of those Sundays while the Feast of San Gennaro
Okay.
is going on.
I'm
That's
putting it
when
I'm putting it on my list here to see if I can fucking swing it to come up.
we're gonna fill that list pretty quickly.
Yeah, and if I do come up, I'm calling Scott and I'm gonna tell him to meet me there, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is great. This sounds really exciting. So really you've added, this is what I'm kind of getting at in this conversation with you too is you've inherited sort of a legacy brand and, and there was a lot of things that you have to keep doing because you can't not do them. Certain dishes that you can never take off the menu and things like that. But you're also adding, more to the legacy by bringing in some of these festivals and the garden, the pizza garden and all of that. That's new. That's not part of the 100-year history. That's part of the modern history.
Yeah, and I also think that touches on what we were talking about before is, kind of being able to adapt and to add these certain things and, these certain festivals and or special nights going on. Like we have coming up this week, this Saturday, I'm sorry, this Friday, we have our annual Carnivale celebration. So that'll be at the restaurant. So we have always some type of event going on throughout the year. And then I love kind of now being able to add to that lineup with these different events. And San Gennaro's one that definitely has taken off. And I did a disco night over the years. I did a freestyle night, so
Yeah.
different events to kind of, keep people on their toes and still interested and keep coming back.
Yeah, because you have to keep refreshing. And in fact, there's something in your bio that's kind of jumped out at me is you bring in your work as a consultant for large brands and companies like that. You say you bring a modern lens to traditional Italian American dishes. So you kind of touched on what that modern lens is, but what are some other things you do when you're working with Citarella who are some of the other companies that you've worked with? Galbani cheese, one of the largest cheesemakers in the world, Staple Gin. I mean, what is it that you bring to them that kind of brings the old and the new together in a fresh way and essentially freshens it up for today?